will pay. I will bathe this world in blood. Impressive, but futile. Swift death.
Hello and welcome, Exiles, to my take on Forbidden Rite Occultist. I've done Forbidden Rite a few different times in the past. They've all turned out to be fantastic failures, but this time, I assured victory by spending a lot of currency. And that way, the character is semi-viable, except for one small, fantastic little feature I like to call, how do I put this? Don't cast my skill too fast right out the gate when I start mapping. Basically, we have a bit of a ramp time. So like if I cast a few times and then start up, I can cast fine. It'll be permanently sustained. But given we are a build with about 200-ish% recoup or something like that, it does take a second or two for that recoup to really kick in. So that way you can overlap with more instances of recoup as you hit yourself. And the idea is, if you have 0 recoup and then you just go straight to full spam casting, you can PK your character. But that's not too much of an issue. It's mainly just I have to remember it or think a little bit consciously about it. Just a small little feature. It's not a problem. It's totally fine. But yeah, other than that, characters basically just stacking a decent amount of life, grabbing Defiance Destiny, trying out Apostate. Originally, I was planning to do this with Wrathpith, and then I remembered, oh wait, Wrathpith loses 10% life when you trigger a skill, and I was planning to have a decent amount of cast and damage taken to automate my curses, to automate a Purifying Flame, to automate another second Forbidden Rite, so that way I could hit myself even more than I was already hitting myself with my main Forbidden Rite, so on and so forth. Moral of the story is, I think this character's okay. I wouldn't like full on recommend it. I wouldn't say go build like this. I think it's a little bit scuffed and probably too expensive for the power, but I had fun doing it regardless. And speaking of the build, one of the new things, pretty much every build I play, there's some new concept or some new thing I want to try out and just see how it works. A lot of me making builds is revolved around, hey, I don't know if this will work with this. Let's try out that combination, see how it goes, and then try to learn something from it. And for this build, the main thing I really wanted to test out was the combination of Mask of the Stitch Demon with the Apostate chest piece. Now, the idea here is basically, I'm stacking a bunch of life, and then I'm using that life to then get ES through basically just Corrupted Soul and Melding. I have a bunch of gain life as ES. And so the idea is I have a big life pool, and then just with one keystone and this notable here, I end up giving a pretty big ES pool, 4k ES, and that gives us regen through this helmet. Now, I didn't full on lean into this. I think if I was going to min-max and make this build really something special, it would require a lot more investment into instacking, doing the simplex instack amulet, probably grabbing the instack cluster here, and then probably putting more in throughout my tree, etc. But ultimately, I just got off a mana stacker where the main mana stacking element was instacking. So it just felt like, I don't know, too much samey. So I ended up with a build somewhere around the middle. Now, the idea is essentially, if you're a witch or a shadow or a scion or a templar, if you're a character that is on this side of the tree, you want some of the notables over here, you're going to be speccing through a lot of int. That ends up meaning you're going to end up having a lot larger amount of int than you are strength. And thus, you can end up going for int investment for your life total. Like, for example, when you play a character that's on, like, this side of the tree or whatever, you're not getting as much strength. Generally, you'll end up with 500 to 1,000 less life on average or whatever, just because of how much flat life you get from the strength tree. And the idea is you're taking a trade where you're trading Mask of the Stitch Demon strength stacking, where it gives you life, for int stacking, giving you life instead. So that means we went from getting 80 flat life from this strength to 300 flat life here, but it's not that simple. I do have gear pieces that have int on it, right? I have int on my gloves. This couldn't have strength without essences, so that'd be weird. I have int on my boots. This also couldn't have strength because it's an ES pair of gloves unless I did some weird stuff with essence crafting. And the idea is this stuff all pairs with Apostate because I want ES on my gear. I want these ES bases, and thus I don't have as much access to strength to begin with. And we have int on our ring. That's most of our int scaling. Granted, if I full on leaned into it, I probably could have gotten like 2k int, something like that. And the combination where it gets a little bit more interesting, or the idea where the Master Demon starts to make a little bit more sense, is this gain as number it gives you a portion of your life as ES, but that portion of ES has not been scaled with your percent ES increases yet. And int also gives a fun little bonus where it makes your ES increase by 1% per 5. So we actually have almost 100% increase ES. Now, this is still additive with the other increases to life you already had before it. So say our base number for our life total is 2,000. This gain as number would give us like 200 flat from it in terms of ES. And that 200 would get scaled by the 100% increased ES. I'm not sure if I'm making 100% sense here, but the point is this is not like a flat ES number. Like it's not like we're getting 20% of our life that we can then increase with ES and then multiply it, because otherwise we'd have obviously a bigger ES number than we have here, given 20% of our current ES number would be like 3K ES, and then we'd go to 6K, but no, we go from like 3K to more around 4K because it's additive with the other increases to life that already happened. But the point is, if you leaned into this more and you really went into in stacking, we'd have 1, a much bigger increase. 2, we'd probably hit a higher life number. And then 3, that would result in this ES number being bigger and bigger and bigger. And now the benefit of having this ES number being really big, even though we can't get a large amount of ES, is the helmet comes with a mod that says 1% regen per 500 ES. Now with our character, that's 8% regen. It's not specifically too huge or too large. Ultimately, I think this is just like at the mid-range point where it's like kind of worth the helmet. Maybe a rare would still be better at this point. It's awkward. But I think if I really full leaned into in stacking and we got this number closer to a 10K ES because of having so much higher increases to ES along with higher life number scaling and real min-maxing it, this ends up being like 20% regen. And that is a real tantalizing number in terms of when you throw in like some extra recovery rate via the boot implicits or bench crafts on your boots, or things like regen rate from Hardy, or even recovery rate from like a Watcher's Eye mod. Stuff like that starts to make that regen number be a really sizable amount. Maybe it gets more interesting there. And the other point is it also gives us more base damage for things like Forbidden Rite, because Forbidden Rite gives deal 5% of your maximum ES as base chaos damage. So for example here, this 4K ES giving 5% from this is another, I believe, what is that, 200 flat damage or something just from that extra ES number, which is a sizable additional amount of damage to the amount of damage redeemable Forbidden Rite. It also is sizable when you consider something like Righteous Fire, which gets 70% of your ES as extra base fire damage. And I think this is the way I would maybe in the future look at making a Righteous Fire Elementalist make sense, because Elementalist has this awkward situation where it starts over on the inside of the tree and it has a hard time getting regen, and this starts to fix that scenario where you get a lot of regen from your helmet. But that being said, it is a scenario where you're really high investing, and it's probably not something you can really pull off too early on. Just something weird I wanted to test, and that was the idea I was working with. I think it worked okay. I think my takeaway is you really have to full lean into it for it probably to work and really benefit and start to shine. Right now, it just feels kind of mid, because this helmet's giving us, oh, it's okay ES. It's a 260 ES helmet. It has percent life because we went and corrupted some, right? It has some flat int, so it has some decent things here, but ultimately, it's nothing too grand or too impressive, given it also is deleting our ES. Now, the ES we weren't really going to be able to make use of anyways. As a Forbidden Rite build, we were going to be constantly damaging ourselves. Now, granted, a lot of the damage would bypass our ES, but I'm also running Righteous Fire, which would have deleted our ES as well. So anyways, that's the idea of the character. The main thing I wanted to build around was this. Ultimately, the character's probably a bit too expensive to be good. And, oh, another sideline point is I wanted to steal Corpse Pack and use this as, like, a way to get a bunch of cast speed. Holy cow, there is no way to consume corpses without making an annoying noise. This is just a little side note that it's just, like, it's either DD, an offering, or a volatile dead. The point is, there's no way to consume corpses without making obnoxious noises, or at least I couldn't figure out, and that alone was enough for me to not want to do this, even though it was a way to get a bunch of extra cast speed in the build. I was originally going to be doing a cast and damage taken setup with Corpse Pack, where I just constantly was procking corpses to consume and then casting really fast is what I was thinking about doing, and then I realized, holy cow, that's annoying, so we didn't end up doing that. Blah, blah, blah. Hopefully that makes sense for why I chose what I chose. Let's go ahead and showcase a uber elder real quick to give you an idea of what the character looks like while playing it. We will witness it with Maven because why not? This character mainly is hit-based immune to a certain threshold. Basically, the way it works is unless our enemy can one-shot us, they're not going to kill us. And degens don't matter too much because we have so much recoup from ramped up damage over time. The one thing that is a very big danger for this character is, number one, a big enough fizz hit. Right now, I'm just barely shy of being able to tank an Uber Shaper Slam or a very heavy fizz hit like 20k fizz, which most things don't hit that hard. Uber Shaper Slam is one of the few that can hit that hard. I think if I went for a Purity of Elements Watcher's Eye with like fizz taken as, 2 of those, like a double fizz taken as, would be expensive, but would probably clip out most of the deaths where we die to fizz. The other way we die is, say we've ramped up all this recoup, and we have a bunch of recoup ramped against a bunch of degen. There is a world where we could end up stepping on Awakener Degen Ground or standing in a Maven laser that disables regen, and we will instantly die. The reason for that is it disables all recovery on the spot, and we have ramped up a bunch of damage that is going to be dealt to us over time with Petrified Blood, and that will instantly give us. Outside of those things, there's not too many issues, but I wanted to name a few of the cases that will hurt and give a little demonstration of what this character looks like in terms of doing Ubers and in terms of them dealing damage to us. So when we take shots, you'll notice our HP pool is going to be dipping regularly, right? Because we are taking those hits, but we recover it very fastly because we have a bunch of ramped recoup, and we have a bunch of we also have Defiance of Destiny. So every time an enemy hits us, we will recover a large amount of life. So between those two things, we don't really take too much damage. I think we probably could go without the Defiance of Destiny in most cases, just due to the ramped recoup from us shooting Forbidden Rite all over the place. This we need to dodge because it does hit us hard enough where it actually kills us. And I need to make sure I'm actually dealing damage to the correct enemy here. I think this guy is... Okay, they're phased. Alright, the other annoying thing, or slightly annoying thing, is I do have to constantly remain casting. Like, if I stop casting for however many seconds it is, I will take, I will eventually, the recoup will run out and I'll have to restart casting, which gets a little bit dangerous in terms of you just have to be a little bit careful not to full spam cast that first half a second you're casting or whatever it is. If you cast like 2 times and then stop for half a second and then start casting, you're not going to PK yourself, but that is... I looked away for like a split second and you started to slip. So that's my point. We are not taking up for a Fizz Slam. If I press for Genesis, I maybe get close to tanking it, but I really need the Fizz taken as to tank that properly. So didn't really demonstrate my character too well here, but it is what it is. Wouldn't be a proper showcase without choking a little bit. Now that surprised me. I don't know how that was able to kill me, but maybe he did just one-shot me in the ball. Now I'm really embarrassed, but it is what it is. I don't really believe in trying to recut videos based on stupid things happening. Number one, I don't have the time for it. Number two, I'd rather just give the showcase based on whatever happens while playing the character. Dude, now I'm afraid of Shaper Balls. How did he kill me with that? I mean, he might have crit me. I'm not 100% sure. I feel like he probably crit me. If he crit me, he crit me. It is what it is. But, anyways, we wait for Shaper to finish his phase so we can, where is he? He's over there. Or casting over there. Where did he go? Okay, I guess he was dead. Alright, anyways. That is Uber Elder. That is a showcase of my Forbidden Rite Occultist. This build was pretty expensive. I don't particularly recommend it. I had some fun playing it, tried some things out, and I just wanted to make a showcase of it. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. As always, I'm going to keep trying out different ideas I have or things I want to do. And, alright. I was going to say, I must have hit the loot on accident. But anyways, not that hitting the loot mattered. It's always a ring! Every time. One of these times I'm going to be able to get a Watcher's Eye. I feel like I've just gotten real lucky with Watcher's Eyes. It is what it is. Anyways, this was just a character I was making and trying out. Do with that information what you will. Until next time, I'm going to keep trying out new characters and trying out different concepts just because that's what I like to do in this game is tinker and test. And I'll see you until next time. Peace out, Exiles. Have a good one. Take care.